The soup hit my hair first, then my face, sliding hot and sticky down my neck and into my collar. Someone gasped. Someone laughed. I stood there, blinking through the sting, while my brother's voice cut through the yard. "You have 15 minutes to leave this family. Marissa." The music died. Conversations froze mid-sentence. I could feel every eye on me, waiting for a reaction that would justify what he had just done. I lifted my napkin and wiped my eyes. "Say it again," I said quietly. Evan scoffed. "You heard me. You don't belong here anymore." My mother stared at the ground. My father took a long drink and looked away. Lily covered her mouth, but her smile slipped through her fingers. "This is my birthday," my mother whispered, not to him, but to me. I nodded. "I know. That's why I came." This story is an original creation by the writing team of the Revenge World channel, inspired by the hidden corners of family life and told with the purpose of fostering emotional connection and spreading understanding. Evan stepped closer. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. Grandpa believed in sharing. You always thought you were better than us. I thought I was invisible." I said, "There's a difference." A few phones were already raised. I didn't ask them to stop. If you have ever watched your own family turn on you in public, you know why moments like this deserve witnesses. Lily leaned in, her voice sweet. "Just leave, Marissa. Let today be about Mom." I met her eyes. "It always is." Evan laughed, sharp and brittle. "You hear that? Still playing the victim." I reached into my bag, feeling the familiar edge of the folder. I didn't open it. Not yet. "You gave me 15 minutes, I said. "Use them wisely." His smile faltered. The power shifted, just enough for him to feel it. Around us, the silence stretched. If this story resonates with you, if you know what it feels like to be pushed out and told it is love, stay with me. What happens next is why I stopped apologizing for surviving. Evan was 4 when he learned he could do no wrong. I was 7, standing in the kitchen while he spilled juice across the floor. "It was an accident," my mother said, already reaching for paper towels. "He's just a kid." When I dropped a glass a week later, my father's voice cut in fast. "Watch what you're doing. Marissa." That pattern never changed. At dinner, Evan talked. Everyone listened. When I spoke, my words floated past to the table like smoke. "You gotta be," my mother told Evan once, smiling. "We're so proud of you." I brought home perfect grades. My father nodded without looking up. "That's what's expected." Lily arrived years later and sealed it. She didn't need to ask. Things simply appeared for her. New clothes, new plans, new excuses. "She's sensitive," my mother would say when Lily snapped at me. "Be the bigger person." I learned early what that meant. Be quieter. Be easier. Be smaller. When college came up, Evan announced he was still figuring things out. My parents paid his tuition anyway. "You'll manage." My father told me when I mentioned costs. "You're responsible?" I nodded, because arguing never worked. At holidays, relatives praised Evan's confidence and Lily's charm. Someone would turn to me and say, "You're so independent." It was never meant as a compliment. It was permission to need nothing. By the time I left home, I already knew my place in the family. I was the one they counted on to disappear without complaint. My grandfather Samuel never raised his voice. He didn't need to. "You're early," he said the first time I drove down alone. "Good. Sit." Evan had texted that morning. "Can't make it. Busy." Lily sent a heart emoji and nothing else. Samuel poured tea and watched me the way surgeons watch monitors. "They don't come anymore," he said. Not accusing, just stating a fact. "I'm here," I told him. He nodded once. "I see that." We talked about my residency, about nights that blurred into mornings. When I mentioned a complication, he leaned forward. "Details matter," he said. "That's where care lives." Later, my mother called. I put the phone on speaker. "Tell your grandfather happy birthday," she said. "We'll try next month." Samuel didn't react. When the call ended, he said, "Trying is what people say when they've already decided." "Another visit? Another empty chair?" Evan called during dinner. "Hey," he said, breezy, "just checking in." Samuel waited. Evan didn't ask to speak to him. When I hung up, Samuel smiled faintly. "He likes the idea of family," he said, "not the work." On my last visit before he got sick, he pressed an old photo into my hand. His first team. Young faces, tired eyes. "People think blood makes a bond," he said. "It doesn't. Showing up does." I swallowed. "I don't want anything." "I know," he replied. "That's why this matters." When I left, he stood in the doorway longer than usual. "Whatever they become," he said, "don't let it tell you who you are." I drove away with that sentence lodged where excuses used to live. By my second year as an attending, Evan called less to ask how I was and more to tell me what he was becoming. "I'm building something big," he said one night. "Healthcare is broken. I'm fixing it." "That's ambitious," I said. "It's vision," he corrected. "You wouldn't get it. You work inside the system." He talked about investors who loved the pitch and partners who just needed time. When I asked about numbers, he laughed. Details slow people down. A month later, my father mentioned the loan over dinner. "We helped Evan get started," he said. "Family supports family." How much I asked. He waved it off. "Enough." Lily chimed in. "Once it takes off, we'll all be set." I stayed quiet. At the hospital, I counted heartbeats and minutes. At home, they counted on hope. When the calls came later, Evan's voice had changed. "Just a rough patch," he said. "Can you spot me until the next round? I can't." I told him. There was a pause. "You could," he said. "You just won't." "I won't," I repeated. After that, silence. Then rumors, missed payroll, developers leaving. My mother called in tears. "He's under so much pressure." She said, "You're strong. You can handle hearing it." I listened. I didn't offer fixes. Somewhere along the way, Evan stopped talking about changing the world and started talking about survival. I kept working. He kept believing someone else would catch him before he hit the ground. The hospital called just after dawn. By the time I arrived, Samuel was already gone. My mother cried softly into her coat. My father stood rigid, hands folded, as if grief were something that might spill if he moved. Evan arrived late and whispered, "Traffic was insane." Like that explained absence. Lily hugged me without meeting my eyes. At the cemetery, the pastor spoke about family. No one interrupted him. I stayed behind when it was over. A man in a dark suit approached me near the gate. He introduced himself as Samuel's attorney and lowered his voice. "Miss Cole, your grandfather requested this be delivered privately." He handed me a sealed envelope. My name was written carefully, as if he had practiced. At home, Evan circled the living room. "So, what did he leave?" he asked. "The house." "The company I don't know," I said. My mother nodded too quickly. "He always said everything should be fair." I waited until I was alone to open the letter. It listed numbers in careful lines. $2,200,000 in remaining shares, $1,100,000 in trust assets. One beneficiary, me. A second page explained the conditions. A final paragraph stated, without apology, who was excluded and why. When I called the attorney, his voice was steady. "Your grandfather updated the trust after his last birthday." He was very clear. "Does anyone else know?" I asked. "No," he said, "and you are under no obligation to tell them." Evan called that night. "We should talk," he said, "about Grandpa's wishes." I looked at the folder on my table. "There's nothing to discuss," I replied. He laughed, uneasy. "Family doesn't work like that." I hung up without correcting him. Evan called 3 weeks later, cheerful in a way that felt rehearsed. "Mom's birthday is coming up," he said. "We want you there. It would mean a lot." To who I asked. He laughed. To the family. After we hung up, my phone buzzed again. It was Rachel, a nurse I trusted more than most people in my life. "Be careful," she said. "Your brother has been asking around about estate attorneys." "I know," I said. "He's desperate," she added. "That makes people sloppy." That night, my mother left a voicemail, just one evening. She pleaded, "Let's not make things complicated." I listened to the message twice before deleting it. 2 days before the party, I made a quiet call of my own. I requested a civil standby through the local department, explained that there had been family tension, and I wanted witnesses if things escalated. The officer on the line paused. "Do you expect trouble?" "I expect honesty," I said. He acknowledged the request without judgment. When I packed, I placed the folder at the bottom of my bag. I didn't plan to use it. I planned to be ready. Evan texted as I crossed into town. "Can't wait to see you." I stared at the screen and kept driving. Evan clinked his glass with a spoon. "Before dessert," he said, smiling too wide. "I want to clear something up." The crowd leaned in. My mother's hands tightened around her napkin. Grandpa believed in family. Evan continued. "He left something for all of us. No favorites." I spoke before he could finish. "That's not accurate." His smile cracked. "You weren't there for the important conversations." "I was there," I said. "You weren't." A murmur rolled through the tables. Lily shifted beside him. "Marissa, don't do this here." "Then don't lie here," I replied. Evan's face darkened. "You always think you know better." He lifted the soup tureen. I saw it before anyone else did. "Enough," my father said, weakly. The soup hit my head, sliding down my cheeks and soaking the front of my dress. Someone screamed. Phones came up fast. "You have 15 minutes to leave this family," Evan said, shaking with triumph. I set my bag on the table and opened it. "I'm not leaving," I said. "I'm correcting you." I pulled out the folder and turned it so everyone could see. Samuel Whitaker's trust. I read aloud. "Sole beneficiary. Marissa Cole." My mother gasped. "That's not possible." "It is," I said. "Signed, notarized, and updated." Evan lunged forward. "You forged that." "Touch it," I said, and this becomes something else. A man near the grill leaned in. "It looks legitimate." "It is," I said, "and there's more." I turned a page. "Your loans were sold after default. The note is now held by a trust-controlled company." Evan laughed, panicked. "You think that scares me?" "It should," I said. "The acceleration notice was filed this morning," Lily whispered. "What does that mean?" "It means time ran out," I said. A uniformed officer stepped closer. Calm. "Everyone keep some space." Evan's voice dropped. "You planned this. I prepared." I said. "There's a difference." My mother reached for me. "Please." "Not like this." "This is how it was done to me," I said. In front of everyone. Evan's shoulders sagged. The crowd watched in silence as the power shifted, finally, away from him. The calls started the next morning. Evan left 3 voicemails, each shorter than the last. "This went too far," he said. "You embarrassed us." By the 3rd message, his voice was thin. "We need to talk." I didn't call back. 2 weeks later, my mother tried. "Your brother is filing bankruptcy," she said, as if the word itself were a wound I had caused. "He's losing the condo." "I know," I said. "You could stop this," she whispered. "I didn't start it." I replied. Lily sent a text instead of calling. "I'm working full-time now. I didn't think it would end like this." I stared at the screen, then set the phone down. My father called once. "Families don't treat each other this way," he said, Tired more than angry. They do. I answered, they just don't admit it. After that, the house went quiet. No more messages. No more attempts to explain away years of silence as misunderstanding. At work, no one mentioned the party. My life stayed intact. Theirs unraveled slowly, without spectacle. One evening, an envelope arrived with my parents' handwriting. Inside were apologies written carefully, as if the right words might reopen a door. I folded the pages and placed them back inside. Some things end loudly, others end when no one shows up anymore. I met the attorney one final time on a quiet weekday afternoon. "You don't want the board seat," he said, confirming what I had already told him. "No," I replied. "Sell the shares." He paused. "Most people don't walk away from that kind of influence." "I'm not walking away," I said. "I'm redirecting it." Months later, I stood in a small conference room at a teaching hospital back in Savannah. A young woman sat across from me, hands folded tight. "They said this fellowship didn't exist last year," she said. "They said someone funded it quietly. It exists now." I told her. "Use it well." She nodded, eyes bright. "I will." When I left, Rachel called from the parking lot. "You sound different," she said. "Lighter." "I am," I said. "At home." My phone stayed silent. No messages from my parents. No updates about Evan or Lily. The absence felt earned. I framed one photo on my desk. Samuel, younger than I ever knew him, standing beside his first team. I didn't reclaim my family. I reclaimed my direction. If you've stayed with me this far, it means some part of this story touched something familiar. Share it with someone who understands silence like this. Sometimes the strongest boundaries are the ones we stop explaining. I turned off the light and let the quiet stay.